We are here basically to watch a film that was prepared by the University of Bath, talking about tobacco farming as current time slavery, that it is really enslaving people in those countries where tobacco farming is taking place. We watch the film, and then after that we have some discussions that will help us even to move forward.
The screening of the Tobacco Slave movie delves into the colonial links intricately tied to tobacco farming, shedding light on an unfortunate reality that persists in our country. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we watch, let us reflect on the echoes of history that reverberate through the hands that toil the fields, that bear witness to the struggles of our people. This is not just a film, it's a call to action. A reminder that liberation is possible and that change is within our grasps. We should invite questions after the screening so that we can be able to engage. Our good panelist here is able to respond. And also we should ensure that this message moves to the four corners of our country. We should join hands together. Let us commit to a future where our people will thrive independently, where our fields are used to grow food, not tobacco, where we have prosperity, and where we can leave a legacy behind of empowerment, not exploitation.
As NTA, over time we've been advocating for policy changes, especially with advocating for increase in taxes and going beyond the collection of taxes, which makes it less affordable, also advocating for channeling of these taxes to supporting our health sector and improving our welfare. So over with the support of KETCA and other tobacco advocates, there are several things that we've been able to achieve, but again, there are also challenges when it comes to industry interference. So we hope that from today, we'll be able to learn, we'll be able to understand, and also be able to examine how far we've come and what needs to be done in order to realize a better future.
This complements further even what government has been doing in the Tobacco Free Farms project. So I think this documentary and film is going to support the work that we do nationally. So congratulations to the team that worked on this, and we are looking forward to see how we can use this to support the work that we do in advocacy.
The screening of this movie is timely because we are not about to see the use of the farming for tobacco reducing. As you've said, there are a lot of emerging nicotine, novel nicotine and tobacco products. One of the key things that we are looking into is to review the Tobacco Control Act and the regulations. I think that's one of the tasks that we've been given, and we look forward to working with all the stakeholders to ensure that we have some laws and regulations that not only cover what is now, they can be able to anticipate what may arise in the near future so that we can be able to keep ahead of the industry, because I've realized this industry is actually usually much more ahead.
So first I'll say congratulations to us all as Kenya and as Africa for the progress that we have made in suppressing the tobacco use epidemic. Yesterday there was a report released on tobacco use And it shows that we've reduced by from 13.2% to 9.5%. So congratulations, everybody, on the work that you have done. The WHO is continually supportive of the ministry in their efforts to suppress tobacco in Kenya through the implementation of the 2 treaties, the FCTC and the ITP, and obviously the Tobacco Control Act. One of the main projects that we have been supporting has been the Tobacco Free Farms project. I know you've heard it being mentioned here and there, where we are working to help Kenyan farmers who are growing tobacco, who are trapped in the cycle of growing tobacco, to transition to profitable alternatives, or to transition to healthier alternatives, better alternatives for the environment, for their economy, for their health, and so on. And we're seeing great success. We have managed to expand to 4 counties now: Migori, Meru, Bungoma, and Busia. And that would not have been possible without the help of the Ministry of Health, our civil society organizations, the Tobacco Control Board, and we're sincerely grateful. I also want to say congratulations to the team who have worked on the film that we're about to watch. I know you've poured a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. You've labored hard for this, and absolutely it will be very instrumental to reach especially groups of people who are at risk to be caught up in the the new ways of using tobacco and tobacco products, as well as those who are already inside. So we will definitely use it in our work. We are very grateful, and congratulations.
My name is Philip Ochieng, and I come from Migori County. I've been a farmer for a very long time. That is when, I think from 2005. Yes. And so I do farming mostly as a side hustle, but I have a permanent job somewhere. So, in Migori County, as you know, it's one of the major producers of tobacco in Kenya. And in Migori, when we were growing up, when we were very young, we used to have 2 main cash crops. That is tobacco and sugarcane. And you know, those who have been in agriculture or interacting with the people from Ministry of Agriculture, you know the problem that we have in the sugar industry. And so as a county, we have been like a cursed county. Companies like BAT, they will come approach you, you get into a contractual agreement. They'll give you the inputs that you want. If you need any mechanization in your farm, they will do it for you. And so you don't have that pain of having to spend your money to have your farm moving on. But now the problem will come when you have the leaves mature. You will be desperate because one, they will first recover their money, and then they will offer you the price that they feel for you. So at that point, you'll find like you've put too much of labor in the farm, but whatever you are going to recover is not even going to sort out things like the school fees, food and stuff like that. And so you find most farmers were debt-ridden. Every annual cycle you find, you are always in debt, but still you are in some kind of agreement. So they will come give you some money, but the debt will just accumulate year after year.
When curing tobacco, lots of firewood is used. So when you pass in our area down there in Sirisia towards the border of Luahaha, we're really being hit hard because there are no trees to cover the soil. Firewood is very expensive because it's never found from there. Trees are no longer there. I hope my friend from Bungoma can testify to that. Yeah, so there is deforestation within the region. Our department actually does a lot of sensitization in the community through parents to guide their children abandon bad habits like smoking of tobacco, drinking, and using other substances that can affect their lives, their health.
I have been involved in tobacco research, working with farmers in at least 3 different countries, in Malawi, in Kenya, in Zambia, and recently in Zimbabwe. And what we've been doing is following the farming dynamics, the economics of tobacco growing, the challenges that they face, and how generally tobacco, I would say, impoverishes them, or the level of exploitation that they face there. And this forms part of what I will mention. And then just to add to part of what Maurice has mentioned, and you can see the withdrawal and the challenges that is faced. I'm currently working with the University of California, San Francisco, and Cambridge, where we are looking at we're researching on how we can incorporate tobacco cessation in HIV programs, which is something that is missing. As you may be aware, people living with HIV are more susceptible to diseases more than the general population, and they have a higher prevalence rate, and that's what we are looking at. When it comes to tobacco farming, there are negative health, environmental, and social impacts. If you're looking at health, you're looking at skin, respiratory diseases. You have the green tobacco sickness. We have the degradation of soil quality. We have heavy use of pesticides, water pollution, deforestation. And in addition to this, tobacco will generally be grown as a monocrop, which leaves the soil vulnerable to diseases and pests. Even though, as you'll see later, and this is something that I think we need to be alive to, you will hardly get one farmer who's just growing tobacco. So as you'll see in the allocation of farming or farmland, tobacco has increasingly, and this is part of the effort that that we as tobacco control proponents, with the support of subsequent governments, have had, where you can see the share allocation of tobacco in the total farming land has been going down. Again, we have the issue of tobacco and poverty traps. So when you look at the contracts, when you look at the cost, when you look at the pricing, this is where it manifests a lot. So studies show that agricultural inputs for tobacco are higher than that of non-tobacco crops in the same areas.
As you've seen in the film, there is the strong connection to colonialism and colonial practices in the film. Mm-hmm. Where I'm based at the University of Bath is literally right next door to Bristol, which was one of the slaving ports during colonial days. We saw in the film how the tobacco industry originated there during times when colonialism was happening. We saw how the triangular trade worked. And there's been a lot of interest in Bristol recently, amongst residents living there, in terms of sort of uncovering the past of slavery and looking at the city's legacies. There's still many descendants of slavery living in Bristol, and we had the momentum behind the Black Lives Matter movement, which came to a head when a group of people in Bristol pulled down one of the statues of Edward Colston, who was a slaving trader. This received international attention. So the film itself started with the idea that we were going to look at the colonial past of Bristol and its links to tobacco, and then make that connection to the contemporary situation and look at how those slave-like conditions still are very much continuing in a different form. So we've replaced those colonial masters with new agents of exploitation.
Why we accepted to take part in the project is that the tobacco industry likes to say this is localized. So, for example, with the court case in Malawi, then the other industries will say, oh, that's just Imperial Tobacco and it's only Malawi. The truth is they do the same thing everywhere. So because it also happens in Kenya, and not with Imperial Tobacco, but now British American Tobacco, this film is still relevant to us because the very same conditions that are there in Malawi are also present in Kenya. And so myself and Dr. Magati felt that by joining this film, and of course by it being screened here, we can also shed light on the same practices here. And when you look at tobacco, people see either the industry or they see the cigarettes. They never see the faces behind it. And it's very easy for the shareholders, those who have shares in this company, to just look at the profits without realizing that there are people who are actually being affected by this product. And so I believe part of what they were trying to do in Bristol is to name and shame. And it's very hard when you see those poor farmers to then justify profits that you're making from the blood and sweat of people. And so it's the same thing that we want to do in Kenya, because very often tobacco control is seen as legal. So we talk about these policies. Let's ban smoking in public. Let's ban advertising. Where are the actual people who are being affected by this? And there's two people. So there's patients who get sick, and then there's poor farmers who are being exploited. And so the more we bring out these stories, and so I was so impressed with the protection officer who talked about the impact smoking had on him for 12 years. And so we want to bring out these stories so that our policymakers can see beyond terms like the FCTC and policies, because sometimes when they're debating these policies, they're not actually thinking that these are people.
One of the things that we need to be clear about is a lot of the numbers being given by the tobacco industry is unsubstantiated. And while we will say, yes, they will say they pay their taxes, two things, everyone pays taxes, including the farmers themselves. I think it's good to note that. And then there's the tax bit that you pay annually from the profits. But then there's also the health cost as a result to tobacco use, tobacco farming. There is the opportunity cost for children missing school or time spent away because of tobacco-related sickness or illnesses. And we don't quite quantify the downside of tobacco growing. Well, of course, tobacco is not an illegal product. It is unhealthy. There are costs associated to that, and that's the part that is usually blinded. When you look at the number of shareholders, and BAT in the annual say they have about 5,000 shareholders. So if you're just talking about the numbers, you'll find that those who are impacted negatively as a result of tobacco use and growing are more than those who actually will say directly benefit from tobacco growing. When you're looking at some of the now we talk about subsidies, it's good to note that the government policy is such that the tobacco is an unscheduled crop. The government does not allocate funds towards the development of the tobacco sector. However, by the sheer fact that the government has a lot of responsibilities and the fact that the government withdrew from the agricultural sector, especially when it comes to extension services, then you find that there's a gap within the agricultural sector that the tobacco industry has taken advantage of and has actually propelled itself and expanded its activities. And these are some of the conversations we need to talk about, but importantly is to provide evidence to counter what the industry projects as prosperous for the country. And even with the numbers themselves, you find it waters down every single narrative that they put in the fore. So whether it is on the economic benefits, you'll realize that they're not able to substantiate that vis-a-vis the costs. whether they're looking at the numbers that they positively impact, when you look at the numbers that are negatively impacted from tobacco growing and also consumption are much higher. When you look at the socioeconomic dynamics within the tobacco growing ecosystem, you can see that more pronouncedly. Lastly, when in economics, we usually say if you have been in a particular area, you are increasing farmers' income, then we need to see that trickle down. We need to see the transformation of these societies and these communities. As Rachel pointed out, the industry has been there for years and years. But when you look at these communities, they are still as poor than similar communities within the same ecosystem.
And a very good video. So just from what was coming on our screen in terms of the waivers and tax holidays we are giving to these companies. So that's one, but I'm looking at, is there a study that has looked at the aggressive tax planning and transfer pricing issues around that from specifically the tobacco control companies?
A lot of the tobacco tax advocacy in Kenya has been driven by the CSOs. And what we need now from the Ministry of Health is the Ministry of Health support. So it's not that the Ministry of Health opposes. They understand why we need to raise tobacco tax and they agree with us. But in terms of, I don't know whether it's one, an understanding of the budget cycle when their input is needed, and then two, actively championing it. So what I mean by CSO-led advocacy is that when there are the budget sector hearings, the CSOs are there, they are putting in their proposals. When it comes time to go to the parliamentary committee, the CSOs are there, and we've not been seeing a submission from the Ministry of Health. And so what we would really appreciate this time round for this year is for them to actually put it in writing, because in terms of talking government to government, the Ministry of Finance may or may not listen to us, but the Minister of Finance would actually give audience to his counterpart from the Ministry of Health if she asked for it.
I was just wondering aloud, what is the experience of tobacco farmers, maybe in the West? Are they paid better? Why don't the tobacco companies just pay better? I know it's because of the drive of profits, but I think for the longest time, it's always been miserable to grow tobacco. How comes there is no drive to try and address that, like in other industries that you say that are also extractive, like tea, coffee, but cocoa, but this seems to be, the tobacco companies seem to be ones doing the worst in that.
Tobacco growing, is harmful. The West have been tightening the legislation over years, and it's become more difficult for the tobacco industry to use the same exploitative avenues. In the West, the farmers are more educated, the income levels are more high, there are more avenues to diversify into different sectors. Now, this part of the world, we still don't have strong legislation, and the industry is taking advantage of that. And you can see moving has progressively moved from developed countries to developing countries. And you see that again in Kenya, there's where the legal framework is more progressive. There's a general reduction in growing tobacco, and there's more expansion in countries which don't have strong legislation.
I'm so happy with the University of Bath for this. This is a very powerful tool we are going to use now. We are going to use this, much as we will say we don't have maybe the resources, what have you, but in all ways we must use this to show our people what it is. So those from tobacco growing areas, let us be ready to take this message there. Let people there watch this as you talk to them, so that we have that kind of freedom that we are talking about time and again.